if you go to the drop-offs, you go, first of all, the 4 drop-offs are the first 4 letters of the Hastings name on I-75. I mean, the chances of getting caught there are pretty good, even if it's 4 o'clock in the morning. Not a good thing to have, not a good idea, in my opinion. So
it baffles me why John Hastings and his family have been so secret
Gill Robinson
for years.
in Troy on I-75 to Tiger Stadium, and I looked up, I found out Tim's birthday in July. I looked it up, and sure enough, Mark Fidrych pitched that night for the Tigers. From the Birmingham Little League in the 70s. Was John Hastings a coach there? Did he know Tim? How about the hockey arena? This is right after hockey season, or right during hockey season, when that's being drawn. And Helen had, I think, most of the placemats. And John had drawn maps of where all the children had been dropped off, all the details, exactly where the bodies had dropped off. That's how I look at it, and I just think he was putting clues out there.
With John, why would he tell Helen all these things? Was he trying to impress her? Was he trying to, what was his motive? And I think he just needed to tell somebody. And Helen, once upon a time being law enforcement, took notes and always, wrote down things. And I would say, really suspected John all along. But the day after Christmas in 1991, I think it was 1990 or 1991, when John Hastings mentioned the fact that he was the killer, and a person in the next booth who goes by the name Reasoning and Alpina Witness on message boards overheard the conversation
and saw the placemats being drawn. And Helen had, I think, most of the placemats. And John had drawn maps of where all the children had been dropped off, all the details, exactly where the bodies had dropped off, which anybody could do. I mean, it's not evidence that he's the killer, but it's certainly, why would anybody do this 15 years later? Do they still know the exact details? Why would he put Dr. Danto on one of the placemats? Unless he was seeing Dr. Danto, Dr. Bruce Danto, who was trying to get involved with the Oakland County child killings on the radio. I go back to the drop-offs and the pickup sites, and if you go to the drop-offs, you go, first of all, the 4 drop-offs are the first 4 letters of the Hastings name. You have H, Hunter Maple Pharmacy, where Tim King was picked up. You have A, which is the American Legion Hall, where Mark Stebbins, was picked up. S, where 7-Eleven, where Christy Mahalik was picked up. And you have a T, where Tiny Tim, where Gill Robinson was picked up. Tiny Tim Race Cars, Hobby Center. With the drop-offs, you have I-75, where Gill was dropped off. Now, why in the world would anybody drop off a child on I-75? I mean, the chances of getting caught there are pretty good, even if it's 4 o'clock in the morning. Not a good thing to have, not a good idea, in my opinion. So there must be a reason why he dropped off Gill Robinson in Troy on I-75. And again, I get back to, I think John is an alphabet killer. N is the New Orleans Mall and Greedfield, and I believe it's 10 Mile, where Mark Stebbins' body was found. Then you have G, and G is the one letter that doesn't fit, but he did leave Christy Mahalik on Bruce Lane, which could have been for Bruce Danto. And then there's another S, where the drop-off of the G is Gill Road, where Tim King was dropped off, and the other S is where Bruce Danto wanted the body dropped off on an S road, and the theory was Squirrel Road, but John didn't bite for that, and he dropped off Christy Mahalik on Bruce Road, B for Bruce, on Bruce Lane. That's how I look at it, and I just think he was putting clues out there.
I'm an IT guy, and I'm able to find out a lot of information via various search engines on the internet, etc. I'm really good at finding stuff, old articles, doing Google searches, etc. It baffles me why John Hastings and his family have been so secretive over the years. One can find little information about this family online and virtually nothing about John, what he's doing today, what he's done in the past. Now, acting guilty doesn't necessarily mean someone is guilty, but it can be a smoking gun. I just think that Reasoning as an eyewitness to all this at the Big Boy validates everything I believed in Helen, from day one. I just think he's guilty, and in my opinion, the police need to talk to the Hastings family and any acquaintances they may have had over the years, especially in Little League. One thing Helen told me was
that John had mentioned he didn't want to see Mr. King up in Alpena because Mr. King would recognize him. And he also had told her that he had been to a baseball game with Tim on his birthday. I don't know if this was the Birmingham Little League or what, but he said he went to the Tiger Stadium, and I looked up, I found out Tim's birthday in July. I looked it up, and sure enough, Mark Fidrych pitched that night for the Tigers. Again, Helen was right on with that. She didn't, she didn't know the details. I looked up the details, and I just think if the King family can get together with Tim's old friends, I know it's been a long, long time. Some are gone, etc. If there's anybody out there from the Birmingham Little League in the 70s, was John Hastings a coach there? Did he know Tim? How about the hockey arena? This is right after hockey season, or right during hockey season when Tim was abducted. I know John Hastings spent a lot of time at the rink in Birmingham, not too far from McKinney's place, actually. So anyway, I would do that if I was the police. Definitely, I would talk to these folks, get all the information you can out of them, because the whole family's been sort of secretive. It's very hard to find information out about them. And John has disappeared from the face of the earth. That doesn't make him guilty, but all these things kind of add up to me that he is probably the killer, and potentially other family members as well, or other acquaintances. He's definitely involved and knows what's going on, and he's been a recluse since all that happened. So that's it for now. Thank you for listening.